Hi, folks. Today I'd like to talk about this whistleblower case. I think it's a good chance for me to reveal something about how China corrupts American politicians. First of all, for those who don't pay attention at all to the news, I'd like to briefly introduce this whistleblower case. So apparently, President Trump has called up the Ukrainian president and encouraged him to get rid of his country's corruption, specifically allude to former Vice President Joe Biden's son, Hunter Biden, who was holding a job with a Ukrainian company. Apparently, there was some shady dealings there. When the Ukrainian government found out that the company that Hunter Biden's in was involved in some corrupt dealings and appointed investigator to investigate the matter, then Vice President Joe Biden used his power to force that prosecutor to be removed using U.S. aid as a leverage. Now, I'm not a lawyer, so I wouldn't be able to tell you if it is legal or not. President Trump asked a foreign government to investigate his political opponents. But it seems to me if the Biden family did involve themselves into some corruption deals, it's not inappropriate to get that exposed. Anyway, what I'm about to say is gonna probably make everybody unhappy. President Trump is probably gonna be unhappy because what I'm about to say might expose his tricks. Vice President Joe Biden certainly not gonna be unhappy because I will reveal some of the rumors in the Chinese community about his son's dealings with the Chinese Communist Party. And the Democrats are not going to be happy because I'm going to also expose some corruption methods they used. And the Republicans are also going to be unhappy. So I'm going to specifically point out Mitch McConnell's wife, Elaine Chao, his family's dealings with the Communist Party. So in short, nobody's going to be happy about what I'm about to say. First, I'd like to let you guys know I was born in China, so I know how the Chinese work. Basically, they don't have any principles. Their philosophy about mankind is that everyone's corruptible, everything's quid pro quo. So if you pay enough, anybody can be bought, with perhaps the exception of President Trump, because we all know he has been really tightening the screw on the Chinese communists by escalating the trade. Now, if one day Trump relents and let the Chinese have their way, I certainly will entertain the thought that even Donald Trump can be bought. First, about Mitch McConnell's wife, Elaine Chao, who is currently the transportation secretary for the Trump administration. Her family is very wealthy, and they own a shipping company, as I read, and they do a lot of business with the Chinese Communist Party. And now you have to remember, in China there's no rule of law. Anything goes. If the Communist Party want to make you rich, they can have 1,000 ways to do it without it being looking shady. So if they want take care of Miss Chao's family's business, there are many favors they can offer. For example, cutting down the red tapes, offer shipyards or lucrative shipping routes, etc. So there are talks about Miss Elaine Chao's family is heavily involved with the Communist Party. Of course, I don't have enough evidence to support it. I'm not a journalist, I'm not a lawyer. I can just regurgitate what I've read or heard. Well, the next one, I actually have the exact method how the Chinese bought off Clinton. We know the Clinton family only had about $400,000 in assets before Bill Clinton became president. Now the Clinton family is a billionaire. How did they get so rich? The story I read is that Bill Clinton wrote a book, or a few books, and in order to gain Bill Clinton's favor, the Chinese Communist Party has mandated every party member to buy a copy of Bill Clinton's book. There are about 100 million Communist Party members in China. So imagine 100 million people buy former President Clinton's book, and even if only sells for $10 a pop, it's going to amount to $1 billion right there. And when you look at the transaction, there's nothing illegal, right? And people buy his books. There's nothing wrong with that. But in the process, Mr. Clinton has raked in hundreds of millions or even billions of dollars. Very smart. So in return, Bill Clinton has allowed China to join WTO. And it's really since China joined the WTO that the Chinese economy took off. And because the Chinese cheat and steals, they don't follow the rules. And being a sleazy player among communities, players who follow the rules, is very lucrative. Now, if China was a democratic, free country, then we might look the other way, because after all, China is still a poor country. The average GDP per capita is still far behind most developed countries. However, China is not a free and democratic country. It's a dictatorship. And in essence, it's a fascistic country. You have 21st century concentration camps in China, where the ethnic minority, the Uyghurs, are being prosecuted and confined. And maybe one day a final solution will be made too. And China used the profits they made by breaking the rules of WTO to beef up their military. When it comes a day even the US cannot stop the Chinese, then the whole world will be in trouble. This is one thing I don't understand about those capitalist countries, why they do not band together to stop China. I think Lenin once said, the capitalists will make the guillotines for us, and which we'll use in turn to execute them. I think the capitalists today are doing just that by insisting to do trade with China. They are so blinded by the profit in the short term, not caring that it's a life sentence or even death sentence in the long term. At the same time, forsake their own countrymen who are workers and laborers and initially helped to build this company to such a success in the first place. Now, after talking about the Republicans and Democrats and both sides with alarming ties with the Chinese Communist Party, now I'm going to come specifically to Joe Biden. It's been for months that Chinese YouTubers claiming that the Biden's family is being bought by the Chinese Communist government. There was even an amount, it's close to $1 billion, that Joe Biden's son has got from the Chinese Communist Party to start a business in China. Of course, now we all know that Hunter Biden has some questionable dealings in Ukraine. So these talks were kind of rumored in the Chinese community for a long time, but I've never seen the mainstream media pick it up. I think that has caused some frustration for President Trump, which I'll come to the point why I think President Trump might not be happy about what I'm about to say also, because I believe that so-called whistleblower is a Trump follower in the administration, and he or she was directed by President Trump himself to leak this information. The purpose is to expose Joe Biden's family's corruption issue, since the media won't pick up anything that's detrimental to the Democrats. So Trump made it appear at first that it was negative coverage on himself. And the stupid media took the bait, and they bombarded the public with this whistleblower in the past few days. As this saga continues, the public become increasingly aware of former Vice President Joe Biden's shady business dealings, possible bribery and corruption in the past. This is sort of a genius stroke on Trump's side. One thing I don't understand is, why does President Trump take action at this moment? Because Biden is not the Democratic nominee yet. My only conclusion is that maybe Trump sees Biden as the strongest candidate. In reality, I think that might be the case, because I think Biden is the most moderate, at least on the surface, of all the Democrat candidates. The rest of them are all socialists. So Trump is only too happy to take on a socialist. That's why he decided to take action against Biden. So the key message to today's talk is that I think the whistleblower is Trump's decoy, and he fooled you all. Bye.